What is going on, YouTube fam? Welcome back to the Jonathan Dearman Show. So today I want to tackle the very controversial topic of Trump, Ukraine. And when I say tackle, I'm not going to go through all the details of what happened. More so, I'm just going to give my opinion on the whole situation. But just as a small overview, in case you don't know what's going on, but most of you probably do. President Trump was on the phone with the president of Ukraine, and they were talking about a variety of different stuff. And while he was on the phone, he asked for the president of Ukraine to look into the whole Hunter Biden controversy with the prosecutor. And long story short with that, Biden, back when he was the vice president, told the leaders of Ukraine that he wouldn't allow them to have the money that they were needing unless they fired a prosecutor. Well, that specific prosecutor also happened to be looking into the company that Joe Biden's son worked for. President Trump, along with many other things, mentioned to the president of Ukraine, would you please look into this whole Biden corruption thing? Now, here's where it gets messy. So the United States was withholding some military aid to Ukraine. And while they were withholding this aid, that's when President Trump mentioned to look into multiple things of corruption, but one in specific was Joe Biden, which is obviously his political opponent. When it first came out with the whistleblower, it was said that this was a quid pro quo, meaning that he was saying, if you look into Joe Biden, I will release the funds, and if you don't look into him, I will not release the funds. If that's what he did, that is impeachable in my personal opinion. Now, if he was just saying to look into general corruption, and one of the multiple things of corruption that he was saying to look into was Joe Biden, but he wasn't threatening to withhold military aid, is it a smart political move? No, in my opinion, it's not, because it looks suspicious, it looks shady. But is it impeachable? In my opinion, no. If it's not a quid pro quo, it's not impeachable. But again, if he was saying, unless you look into my political opponent, I won't release this stuff, that is impeachable. So the question is really, what was he looking into? Multiple different areas of corruption, including Ukraine interfering in the election, which he had some questions about. And on top of that, one of the multitude of items was Joe Biden, which of course the president is allowed to look into areas of corruption when he believes there's corruption. That's obvious. The question is, was he doing this politically? Which I mean, very obviously he's wanting to look into Joe Biden because he's a political opponent. It's not a coincidence. But was he using the resources of the American government to make that happen? Or was he just operating within his presidential power to look into any corruption that he sees fit? So with all of that being said, here's the bottom line of my opinion, and this is not going to be an incredibly long video. My opinion is this: what he said and asking the president of Ukraine to look into Joe Biden is not a politically smart move. I think exactly what I said earlier. It looks shady. It looks suspicious. I think it's unwise, but it's not surprising though. I mean, President Trump, even after that happened, he made a comment and said something like, yeah, China, you should look into it too.
By the way, likewise, China should start an investigation into the Bidens, because what happened in China is just about as bad as what happened with Ukraine.
So President Trump is very willing to say things that normally probably shouldn't or wouldn't be said. With that, is it impeachable? There's not solid evidence that he was threatening to withhold the military aid. And again, that to me is the dividing line. Was he threatening to withhold stuff? Was he not? If he was not threatening to withhold stuff, my vote is not impeachable. If he was threatening to withhold stuff, my vote is impeachable. At this point, there's no evidence that shows that he was clearly threatening to withhold the military aid unless this happened. But that's subject to change. And if that does change, then my opinion would change. But for now, because I don't see that evidence yet, I would lean towards not impeaching him. And I tell you a problem that I do have. And I promise you, I always try to be as fair and balanced as I possibly can with all of these stories. And of course, we all have our own viewpoints. But within that, I think we can try to view it objectively. But one thing I will say, to be fair to President Trump, Democrats are first saying they want to impeach him and then looking for the impeachable offense. In that day one of his presidency, people were calling for him to be impeached before they knew anything of anything that they suspected that he did wrong, other than they don't like him, they don't like his character, yada yada. That to me is wrong. That's like a cop disliking somebody or disliking the way somebody looked at them, and they pull them over first. And then after they pull them over, they're looking for something they did wrong. And they're like, well, we'll find something. That to me is a wrong mentality. And so it is frustrating that currently some of the Democratic Party are first calling for impeachment, then looking for the offense, when in reality, it should never be our goal for a president to be impeached, Republican or Democrat. Sometimes impeachment is a tool that's necessary if the president is committing high crimes or misdemeanors, is what the founding fathers put. Sometimes that's okay, and that's a tool to be used, but it's not supposed to be a club that we go around swinging at the president, waiting for him to do something that we can catch him with. That's not what this is supposed to be. And so that is frustrating to me, and I would be equally as frustrated if it happened with Republicans doing that to a Democrat. I do not want a future where every time a president is elected, the opposite party looks for any way to impeach them. That's not a future country that I want to live in. If somebody gets elected, they got elected. You got to deal with it. You got to suck it up for 4 years and then come out to vote the next time. Of course, unless there is real high crimes and misdemeanors happening, in which case impeachment is a good tool to check the president. In case you don't know exactly what impeachment is, I actually have a video on my channel where I described exactly what it means to impeach a president. So go check out that video. I'm going to put the link right here so that you understand. But the bottom line is, even if he was impeached, even if the House Democrats decided to move on this and they got enough votes and they did impeach him, it does nothing. It does nothing except for stain his reputation. It's like a slap on the wrist, because all impeachment is impeachment sends him essentially to court, and then the Senate gets to decide if he's convicted or acquitted. There's no in between. And for the Senate to convict him, that would mean he would be removed, but you need a supermajority vote, which is 2/3. So you'd need 66 or 67 senators to vote to convict him. And at this point, that's just not going to happen. The majority of senators are Republicans, unless really strong evidence comes out against President Trump that there was something intensely corrupt. There's no way that the Republican senators would convict him, especially after the whole Trump-Russia thing. I think they're all fed up with Trump-Russia stuff. So even if he does get impeached, what it would look like is he gets impeached, he gets acquitted by the Senate, he goes back to being president, but it is like a slap on the wrist. It's definitely a stain on his reputation, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to do anything. There are some people that are confused, thinking that if he gets impeached, that he's removed, and that's not the case. As always, I would love to hear your guys' opinion in the comments. If you're new around here, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our videos, and also the notification bell. Other than that, I will see you all at the next Jonathan Dierman Show. Peace.